VTR number 4, treble 6, big match, part 1, take 1.
And welcome again to the big match. Today we have the first appearance in a Manchester United shirt of Ted McDougall, the man they bought for £200,000 from Bournemouth.
McDougall is offside. Offside. But that's the way he can whack him.
Well, sadly for him, that screaming goal was disallowed, but there are plenty on today's programme that were not. 13 in all, in fact, from our 3 games. And as well as West Bromwich Albion against Manchester United, we have as our main match Spurs against Stoke, a match that is simply bursting with goals. Our bonus game today, well, it's a few snippets from one of the most important second division games, Preston against Sheffield Wednesday. But first, let's go out into the sunshine at White Hart Lane with Spurs and Stoke facing an afternoon of effort in conditions better suited to Test cricketers, conditions that they'll hardly relish. And for this game, Spurs are back to something like full strength. Skipper Martin Peters returns after injury, so too does Alan Gilzean, the number 7. It's a side that's dropped only 1 point at White Hart Lane this season. Stoke City are less happily placed near the foot of the First Division table, but they keep the side that finished by beating Ipswich in the League Cup in midweek. Terry Conroy at number 11, keeping out the former Spurs player, Jimmy Robertson, who is sub. The match also brings back to London that great former West Ham favourite, Geoff Hurst, and his old West Ham colleague in a Spurs shirt this afternoon, the skipper, Martin Peters, confronting him. Also, arguably, the 2 top goalkeepers in Britain. For Spurs, of course, it's Pat Jennings, while at the other end, in the Stoke goal, the one and only Gordon Banks. The crowd is a very buoyant 32,000, enjoying the sunshine, and the referee at White Hart Lane today is Mr. I. Jones of Glamorgan, and now this crowd is waiting for his signal for the game to start.
Defending the goal to our right in the white shirt, Stoke City in red and white stripes. Stoke will come here with a fairly fragile frame of mind. They've never won at White Hart Lane. They are 3 off the bottom of the First Division, and they've still to win a point away from home. What will have helped Stoke is that at least in the League Cup in midweek, they won at Ipswich. Philip Beale getting beneath this one, and Mike England as well. Gilzean. Tony Waddington very realistically putting a certain amount of the blame for Stoke's poor start to the season on himself, saying that in fact he put just a little too much emphasis on attack. I suppose spectators at any rate would say that that is the right sort of fault. A minor fault there by Mike England, and the header really doesn't get it away. It's only as far as Conroy. And now Hurst with a shooting chance, and a fumble there by Pat Jennings, and a gather up just as Terry Conroy came in, and Hurst shot, lacking, if anything, his usual power, and that really was a chance opened up for Hurst. Mike Pejic into the England squad, straight to Perryman. Pratt, nicely turned, swerving there for Alan Gilzean, turned inside for Gilzean. Chivers trying to use his weight, and in fact it's his delicate touch that gets it now back to Pratt again, and a miscue that time by Pratt. Spurs lying 4th in the First Division, and on their own admission not yet playing as well as they could. And back with Gordon Banks. And Hurst obviously caught offside with that one, and a free kick to Tottenham. Which Mike England's going to take. Towards Gilzean. Pratt now taking it on the right. And Coates will jump for this one. That was a good jump. Peters now taking the loose one and turning it back very skillfully towards Chivers. Perryman in turn turning it back to Knowles. Forward now to Coates. Perryman played first time for Peters. Good first time passing here by Tottenham. And now Knowles, the dummy and the pass to Perryman. And still they keep possession. Mike England now. This time for Knowles. Good play again by Tottenham, and Knowles finally losing it. And Mahoney turning it into touch. But a warm round of applause for that Spurs passing movement. Gained no ground, but a few admirers. And there's a good piece of play by Peters. Coates running well for it as well. And Stoke in a little bit of trouble there. Gilzean, and then nodded back by Pejic as far as Banksley doesn't get to him. And the header and a goal by John Pratt. As Stoke hesitated, Pratt made no mistake. Lurking on the edge of that 6-yard area. Terrible hesitancy there in the Stoke defence. And Pratt got up above them all. And Spurs go ahead with 3.5 minutes gone. Gordon Banks, who was in a mix-up there with his defence. Mike England and Martin Peters. And Spurs in that opening flurry, looking as though they might mean business. Ralph Coates running into trouble, and Greenoff. Now Mahoney. Jack Marsh trying to set Greenoff on his way, and Perryman turning it back to Pat Jennings. Pratt again. Greenoff for Stoke. Ritchie. Peters getting in first. Knowles. A slip, and Hurst was there to pounce on it. Mahoney. He's still got Hurst over on his right. Mahoney still going on with Ritchie inside. A good block challenge, though, by Mike England. Knowles really, Coates really running into trouble. Maybe a little fortunate to get a free kick there, but Coates now with it. Sending Chivers on his way. Stopped by Smith. Quarter of an hour gone. Spurs still leading by a goal to nil. Scored after 3 minutes by John Pratt. Chivers with a long throw for them. Towards Gilzean. And it'll fall for Peters. And now for Chivers. Dummy and jinking. That was a good piece of play there by Chivers. And a little flick for Perryman. Knowles now. On for Peters. And another corner for Tottenham. Peters, who's only just back in the Spurs side, having had 3 games out with a groin injury, but really seems to be having a hearty appetite for this particular game. Knowles now. A little cross again, and very nearly an own goal. Coates trying to hammer it. Mike England right in there, and kicked off the line by Dennis Smith. Tremendous saving kick there on the very line from Mike England, who really powered it. And Gilzean injured there in the melee. And Spurs so very nearly adding a second goal. England, whose frustration showed when he saw Dennis Smith whacking that ball off the line. He really thought he got amongst the scorers there. So Gilzean is fit to go on. A push by Hurst on England. Long kick by England towards Alan Gilzean, who gets up so well. Chivers a fraction over. A wonderful example, though, of how suddenly a goal chance can emerge from nothing. A free kick inside their own half, nodded on superbly by Gilzean and very nearly finished off by Martin Chivers. The header by Hurst to John Ritchie. And he's gone past Mike England. Still with Ritchie. Oh, and he got past Jennings as well, but then over the byline and a goal kick when it began to look very dangerous indeed. If he could have floated that across a fraction earlier. Hurst was waiting. Just flick the top of Coates' head to Chivers, and now Kinnear to Coates. And a corner to Tottenham. Pratt's going across to take it. He's looked such an impressive player, John Pratt, today, with so much energy and industry. The man who's taken over from Alan Mullery and doing the same sort of job as Mullery did. John Pratt with the corner for Tottenham. Towards Mike England, who got up well. Gilzean was trying to turn it away. Peters now, and he couldn't hold it. Perryman, maybe he can. England to Perryman. Played wide again to Pratt. And the cross this time to Gilzean! Oh, a marvellous goal by Alan Gilzean! With a lovely cross again. From the right, eluding those Stoke City defenders, and Gilzean, that master of the header, there to finish it off and make it 2-0. Mahoney finding the safe way out to Gordon Banks. England to Martin Peters, and now to Cyril Knowles. And this time Coates is caught offside. Stoke playing this offside game very frequently, where their back four come forward very quickly, most times catching Spurs offside, but always a dangerous game to play. Hurst letting that one run. And he almost got it back, but again Philip Beale is marking Hurst so very closely. They're very good friends, in fact, and we were with them just before the game when Jeff Hurst said, "I suppose you're marking me, Phil," and he said, "Too true." And certainly Beale is making a very good job of marking Jeff Hurst this afternoon. Conroy then with the corner for Stoke. And again, Ritchie coming in on the far side. In fact, that was Bloor coming in on the far side. Oh, pass back there by Peters. Straight to Ritchie. Will it go? Yes, it has. And so John Ritchie has pulled one back for Stoke, given to him by Martin Peters. And although Pat Jennings just got a hand to it, it wasn't enough to stop that just crawling over the line. And totally unexpectedly, with Spurs dominating the game, Stoke have pulled one back to get back into it. So 2-1 we stand with 32 minutes gone. Knowles, Coates. Brought down rather heavily there by Marsh. Was Ralph Coates. But it's going to be a free kick then to Tottenham. Chivers jumping forward, and Chivers winning it. Gilzean turning it back for Pratt. Oh, and John Pratt has scored another one. And a beautiful goal it was. And that was the reply from Tottenham. nodded on beautifully by the two big men, by Chivers and by Gilzean, and Pratt was there to score his second goal of the game and put Spurs into a 3-1 lead. And truly we've got a game of football that matches the glorious afternoon here at White Hart Lane. And no denying that the number 4, John Pratt, so far has been the star of this Tottenham side. Gilzean again judges those to perfection. I don't think he's missed a header this afternoon. The king of White Hart Lane. Now Gilzean with the ball at his feet to Martin Peters. Back heel to John Pratt, turning again, and Gilzean couldn't get to that one, but Knowles can. Letting one fly, and a good save by Banks. Jimmy Greenoff, inside for Jack Marsh. John Mahoney. Pejic. Hurst. Mahoney again, inside, nicely there for Hurst. Will he rattle one off now? He's on that left foot, but he's wide as well. But in fact, he engineered quite a good position there. Just look at the sweat dripping off these players. Hurst there particularly. His hair really matted there as this brilliant sunshine pours down on them. Pratt. Pejic getting in well though for Stoke City. Greenoff too. And Smith taking no chances. No hesitancy there as he got it away, although he only got it as far as Knowles, and now it's with Martin Peters. Across by Peters. Gilzean going in, breasting that one down, and just over from Pratt, who was looking for his hat-trick. And Banks not at all happy with the sort of cover he's got in front of him, and I'm not surprised. Stoke, who conceded 10 goals in their previous 3 games, have added another 3 to that in this one. And Pratt, who has caused them so many problems, both as an aggressive midfield player and as a man who shows he can shoot as well, with 2 goals. Throw to Stoke City. In the last half minute of the first half, just a little time to be added for injuries, and not very much. Philip Beale again in before Jeff Hurst. Coates. Perryman getting that one, but in fact Gilzean's feet were a little too high. I don't think it could have been Perryman's. Jimmy Robertson, the sub for Stoke City. An old Spurs player, I've no doubt he'd be itching to get on, and the way Stoke are playing at the moment, I would think his chances must be a bit useful for getting on. Peters with the throw for Tottenham. Gilzean. Mahoney. Oh, and he's let Ritchie away now. Will those long legs take him clear? No, they won't, because the long legs of Mike England got there first. And a good pass there for Gilzean. Swept wide there for Coates. Kinnear's coming up as well. Perryman diving in quickly again. Peters, a little knot of players there. And Banks behind all of them. Spurs, who played some brilliant football in the first half and deservedly going into the half-time with a 3-1 lead. Gordon Banks beaten 3 times, twice by John Pratt, once by Alan Gilzean with that superb header, with John Ritchie pulling one back for Stoke City. Still to come on the big match this afternoon, Ted McDougall's first game for Manchester United at West Bromwich Albion. Much more besides, and a half-time score here at White Hart Lane that reads Tottenham Hotspur 3, Stoke City 1. We'll be right back with you. So Stoke City get the second half started, facing a formidable task, 3-1 down against a side that have only dropped 1 point at home this season. Indeed, have lost only 2 in their last 12 games, both away from home. That's Spurs, who lost, in fact, both those games very near the end, at Manchester City with about 4 minutes to go, and at Derby County in the very last minute. England a long one forward. Kinnear, and now Mahoney. Green off. But Coates, with his determination, giving him a half chance, and then Greenoff very nearly slipping and giving Spurs another one. But now Greenoff for Stoke, a long through ball. And a goal kick. So Pat Jennings, having had 45 minutes of shielding his eyes to the sun, now at least has that behind him, as he takes this goal kick for Tottenham. Gilzine to Knowles. Chivers turned off again for Martin Peters, and on again this time for Coates, but Coates is offside. The linesman had his flag up. Coates fractionally offside. Hurst for Stoke. Ritchie, Greenoff. Ritchie again, trying to turn on it, but as he turned, he found Mike England was there. Terry Conroy. And a corner to Stoke. Conroy, scorer of one of the goals for Stoke at Wembley in the League Cup final against Chelsea. In fact, had a marvellous game here last year for Stoke against Spurs. There's Greenoff turning it in, and Ritchie! John Ritchie, that sure head of his at the near post, as Greenoff put it over. And that makes it 3-2. Spurs, if anything, just a little slack there. Mike England, who'd followed Ritchie everywhere. Ritchie, for just a fraction of a second, had eluded him and taken up that very dangerous position at the near post. Where it really is, if you position yourself, just a nod and a flick and a goal. Now Chivers. Peters. Chivers again. If anybody needs a goal, it's Martin Chivers to restore that confidence, but he's down again. Chivers, in fact, who has scored 7, but 5 of those came against Lyn of Oslo, those unconsidered Norwegians. And he scored only 1 goal in the league this season as big Martin Chivers. And Spurs getting the free kick, the goal kick. Beale. Ball by Mahoney, as Stoke City's substitute Jimmy Robertson begins to prepare to come on, jogging on the far side of the field. Spurs get the free kick. There's Jimmy Robertson, former Spurs player, who'd love to come on, I'm sure. And the referee's attention drawn to the fact that Stoke want to bring on their substitute. The referee deciding that the free kick got to be taken first, and then changing his mind and deciding that Robertson may want to come on. And Spurs a little annoyed, because it may be they were trying something that they wanted to surprise Stoke with, and they were stopped halfway through doing it. But Robertson is coming on, and it's Terry Conroy who's going off. Which was the other way about in midweek at Ipswich in the League Cup, and it was Conroy who came on for Jimmy Robertson. Well, not a very good one there by Martin Peters. and he looked for a moment as though Chivers might get there before him, but now he's found Greenough. Law, Ritchie. Still with Ritchie. And now with Pat Jennings. Beale for Tottenham. Wanting Gilzean to go wide. Peters. So they try it wide on the other side, and Cyril Knowles. Perryman going outside him. Coates. Still with Coates. Robbed by Mahoney. Ritchie. And at last Robertson gets a real touch of the ball. This flying winger with so much grace. Turned inside again for Ritchie, but quite easily beaten by Mike England, and it's with Martin Peters again. The crowd getting a little restless now, and the game really has not reached the heights it reached in the first half, but it's very difficult conditions out there, so very hot. But now Chivers turning it on. He hoped for Knowles. He'll get it back from Knowles. Chivers again. Will he let one go? Yes, he has, and that really was a real Chivers special that stung the hands of Gordon Banks. Mahoney. England galloping across there, covering again every time Ritchie makes any sort of menacing move. Tottenham's throw. Chivers handily placed there to hurl his long one. Gilzean also placed by the near post. Banks not really getting it with his fist. Pushing and shoving there in the Stoke penalty area, and Knowles now to Ralph Coates, turning it across and turned in, finally put there presumably by Martin Peters. Coates turned it on superbly. From this angle, impossible to say whether Martin Peters did the finishing touch, but without any doubt at all, as a couple of supporters come on, goodness knows why, Peters in fact and Coates between them make it 4-2 to Tottenham. So Stoke kicking off again. And now Greenough. Ritchie, stopped nicely by Mike England. Coates. Gilzean. Coates. Perryman. Looked almost as though he was shoved off the ball there by Mahoney, but the referee said that it was perfectly fair, and there's the ball placed into the path of Jimmy Robertson, or hopefully it was. Instead it was Beale turning it back to Pat Jennings. Oh, those delicate little touch-ons by Alan Gilzean and Martin Peters. Gilzean between them as two Stoke City players knock into each other. Gordon Banks always sure what he was going to do. Skeels leaving it for Robertson. Into the path of Skeels again. Hurst is there as well, onto his left foot, but he couldn't turn it in. I think that was a good piece of defensive play by Cyril Knowles, who followed Geoff Hurst all the way. There's Knowles, and denied Hurst that final, what might have been explosive finishing touch. So Pat Jennings with Tottenham's goal kick. Green off. England. Knowles. And he's onside if he can keep it in, but he can't. And the throw goes to Stoke City. Still with a little more than 10 minutes to go, and Spurs leading 4-2. Mahoney, and Mahoney again. Beaten by Gilzean. Coates to take it up. With Gilzean outside him, Chivers inside. Still with Coates, letting one fly, but again, no more than stinging the hands of Banks. It's Mahoney for Stoke. Green off. And Bloor getting right in there. Yes! So 4-3. And Alan Bloor, who came in there on the blind side, totally unsuspected by that Spurs defence, puts Stoke right back in it again with 7 minutes to go. Well, there have been some odd goals here that certainly as far as Spurs are concerned, they've conceded 3 goals that they will curse themselves for. And when we say at the start of the game that we've got the 2 best goalkeepers in Britain, in Gordon, Banks is one of them, and Pat Jennings is the other, we scarcely expected to find 7 goals in this game. Throw to Stoke City. And Bloor, having scored 1, hopefully goes in again, but that time denied any sort of shot at goal that was effective by Steve Perryman. But Stoke with another throw. Gilzean right back to help out. And Skeels going in. And still going in. And just over! Jimmy Robertson, just a fraction over. That really would have been a sensational comeback by Stoke City. 3-1 down and 4-2 down, within a couple of inches or so of making it 4-4. And it's with Gilzean. And it's all over. No, it's not. Well, I don't know, the players don't seem to know. Yes, it's all over. And Spurs have won by 4 goals to 3. A fine first half, a rather flagging second half in the heat. So, two fine goals there by John Pratt, the number 4 for Spurs. One by Alan Gilzean, and one, a combination really of Coates and Peters, with Ritchie scoring 2 for Stoke City and Alan Bloor 1 to make the final score here at White Hart Lane. Spurs 4, Stoke City 3.
So a strange game, slack in places and with a bigger percentage than usual of bad goals, I suppose. But 2 points for Spurs, that now puts them 3rd in the First Division, 2 points behind Liverpool, the leaders. I think we ought to clear up the confusion of that last Tottenham goal. Martin Peters told me afterwards he did not get a touch to it. In fact, it deflected off a Stoke defender. But he added with a smile that Ralph Coates was determined to claim it for his own. But now let's have a view of the game as a whole from Jimmy Hill.
Indeed, it was a strange game, and I see one paper this morning described it as summer madness. 7 goals, we thoroughly enjoyed them, but not really a great one, I would say, among them. 2 good things from Spurs' point of view. One at the top of the team, the aged end of the team, with Alan Gilzean's performance, and at the other end, young John Pratt, who did a bit for himself in gaining confidence and also enabled the crowd to get more confidence in him. Brian talked to him after the game, and he was extremely flattering about all the qualities that go to make up Alan Gilzean's performance.
I suppose, like Gilly played a big part in both of them. He's such a danger in the air, and I think when he's not playing, we really miss him in the air. He lays on a lot of goals for us.
But you certainly returned the compliment with the cross, didn't you, for his
yeah,
flying
well,
header?
he's the daddy in the air, isn't he? And
I tell you what, though, John, it's been difficult for you, hasn't it, settling into the number 4 shot when Alan Mullery went to Fulham? Tell us about that.
Alan, is a great favourite with the fans. He's a club captain, and coming back last year didn't help things. He had a bad time, and he came back, and everything went well for him. And as far as the transfer went, this is just one of those things. Yeah. It's very unexpected when I got the place, actually, because I hadn't played in any of the pre-season games.
And the crowd weren't easy to get on with for you at first, were they?
Well, it was all cheering for Alan Mullery back, and I'm wearing his number 4 shirt, so it wasn't very much of a compliment to me, but, I don't let this worry me too much.
Scoring goals is one way to get worry out of a footballer's mind, and in fact John Pratt scored 2 beautiful goals yesterday. They were extremely well taken, and more experienced players might have panicked a little bit because they were expected to score from those positions. The first one, a little bit of a mistake from the world's number 1 goalkeeper. You'll see the moment of hesitation in a moment when the ball is headed up in the air and when it's played back towards Banks for the first time. See now, a hesitation, then he comes, but it's too late. In comes John Pratt there. You might say he had an open goal, but he put the ball just where it was meant to go. And the second goal, another Spurs goal from a free kick. They get quite a few. There's Chivers winning it, and Alan Gilzean unselfishly nodding it back. Perfect skill that, and saying, how about putting that one in the net? In fact, he comes in with a jump and does it beautifully. Well taken goals, a new role for John Pratt there as a player coming up from the middle of the field and scoring goals. He's been in those positions a few times for Spurs in the past when he's had chances and missed them through nervousness, but let's hope he's going to hold out a few more in the future. But what about Alan Gilzean? A week or 2 ago, I did say about him that he couldn't have all that long left. Well, as long as he's there, he's determined to entertain the Spurs crowd in the way in which they like. A really unselfish player, a marvellous player in the air. I've said it before, I'll say it again. No one is better when it comes to deflecting balls with his head. Look how he makes that chance there for Chivers. Outstanding skill. And look at this one coming up now. Unselfishness and also a football brain working. A chest trap back to say, how about hitting that one in the net? Laying on chances for other people. But he did his bit of magic on his own. In the second half, this came just near the end there. Still plenty of run. He shows the ball to the fullback and then off he goes down the line, and a curling cross in the middle, just too far ahead there of Ralph Coates. And again, in the last minute, a lovely deflection there, flicked off with his foot to Peters, but he's wanting it back again. He's still full of running, is Alan Gilzean in the last few minutes of the game. And his goal, a typical Gilzean goal. This time, it was John Pratt's turn to make it for him. He's taking the cross there, and in comes Alan Gilzean, and again, that marvellous ability to deflect the ball with his head just where he wants it. Really first-class entertaining performance from Alan Gilzean. The Spurs team started off brilliant. They played some lovely football in the first half and really bewildered Stoke, and it was very sweet to watch. But after half-time, when Stoke came at them and really got to grips with their game, then I think Spurs showed their weaknesses. If they really want to win the Championship, they've got to concentrate a lot more when they're in front, and they've got to win their 50-50 tackles at the back and in the front.
Well, our bonus match today comes from the second division, from 2 teams, in fact, in the top 6. It's Preston North End against Sheffield Wednesday. These are a couple of the highlights. So the pictures, of course, coming from Granada Television. The commentator is Gerald Sinstad. Preston are the team in the white shirts wearing the black shorts.
So Bird has been patched up again. Hawkins with the free kick. It's come loose for Wilson. And he's got it! Just under a quarter of an hour for Preston to hold out, and they're making fairly heavy weather of it. Sissons. That must be a penalty. Epaulet was too late. Epaulet did his best, but he couldn't cope with Sissons' speed, and when he launched the tackle, all he could do was clip Sissons' heels. And so Eustace has a chance from the penalty spot to level the scores. And does. So that's Peter Eustace's 3rd goal of the season, the West Ham player on loan at Hillsborough.
So, a penalty that gave Sheffield Wednesday a point, and next we come to your lesson, indeed, to another penalty. Was it one, or wasn't it? And I'm referring, of course, to that incident at Queen's Park Rangers last week when Cardiff City conceded a penalty. It was right on the edge of the area, and Jimmy said that morally it was a penalty in any case. Well, that didn't please Mr. R. Richardson of 68 New Causeway, Reigate in Surrey. He obviously doesn't believe in moral penalties. And indeed, he wondered if Jimmy would have held the same views about moral penalties in his own playing days. Jim?
Mr. Richardson and I did hold the same views in my playing days, but I'm not suggesting that a referee should ignore facts. If you talk to referees, they'll all tell you that there is the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. And, in fact, this incident was so close to the penalty line that a referee could have given it either way. And that's where I think a referee brings in his discretion and will apply the spirit of the law as well as enough of the letter of the law to make no difference. But let's have a look at that incident now from both ways. And let's see how difficult it was to decide whether the actual offence was committed outside the area or inside. Here's the Queen's Park attack coming up now. And just look, from this angle, it looks as if it was committed outside the area there. Or rather inside the area. Even I'm getting confused with that, but let's look again now from the other angle. There's just a moment's pause there. What about that? Was that first trip outside the area? There it clearly was. And that's why I say the referee used his judgment and discretion and implied the moral law. And it was a penalty.
Well, our next letter takes us back a few weeks to the day Jim McCalliog of Wolves was sent off at Liverpool. Mark Thorne of 12 Gresham Close, Luton. He's obviously an expert lip reader. He makes an interesting point as well, though. He says, can a linesman send a player off? We'll show you this incident twice before we talk a little more about it. There's Kevin Keegan there on the ball, and you'll see in a moment, as the ball comes back down the right here, that McCalliog barges into the Liverpool player, and for that incident, Liverpool get a penalty. McCalliog obviously disputes a linesman's decision there, and the referee's as well. And you'll see in a moment that the referee goes across. There's the linesman beckoning him across. And if you watch the linesman very closely in a moment, this is a prelude to McCalliog being sent off. And now watch the linesman very closely. And Mark Thorne, our viewer from Luton, says, if I were you, I would send him off. So that is what the linesman is saying at any rate. Let's look a little closely again at that last moment. Did the linesman in fact say that? Well, it looks very much to me as though the linesman in fact is saying, if I were you, I would send him off. And Mark Thorne is saying, can a linesman send a player off? Well, of course, a linesman can never instruct a referee as to what to do. He can only advise him. The last word is always with the referee, as I'm sure you all knew in any case. Our last match today, though, is one that pulled in close on 40,000 fans. That was good to see at the Hawthorns yesterday. It was West Bromwich's home match against Manchester United. United, of course, have always got this magnificent pulling power. But now, in addition, there was also the first appearance of Ted McDougall, £200,000 and straight up from the third division. McDougall is wearing the number 8 shirt in the red of Manchester United. The pictures come from ATV, and the commentator is Hugh Johns.
Hartford. He's in very tight trouble there. Wyn Davis comes away. McDougall is offside. Offside. But that's the way he can whack him. Ted McDougall showing exactly what he can do. Ian Moore having to take 2 on, so he gives it to Young again. Hartford knocks it on for Brown. Neatly done inside, but nobody went running for it. Best's ball. Ian Moore, and he's all right. It looked for a moment he might be offside. Bobby Gould. Suggett came here from Sunderland as a striker, but been much more effective in midfield in recent seasons now. Robertson, back for Suggett again. Gordon Nisbet. Brown with Dunn and Buchan round him. Cantello going against Buchan now. Tony Brown. There's the cross ball. There goes Robertson. There's a goal. Brown to Brown. 17 minutes into the first half. And the Brown boys set it up. 1-0 Albion. Situation which really started when Buchan made a poor clearance from the corner. Tony Brown pounced on it, knocks it into the middle. Alistair Brown first man to the ball gave Stepney no chance. And he didn't find any of them. There's Hartford. Brown went too soon. In fact, both Browns went too soon. Number 10 this side, Ali Brown, but the fellow who was furthest forward and was offside was Tony Brown on the far side. No relation, these two Browns, but blood brothers in the efforts they make to get goals for West Bromwich Albion. Well up, Davis. Nisbet for West Bromwich Albion. Alistair Brown. Robbed by Dunn. It's an Albion ball. Any one of four players can play it. Hartford does. Wilson coached it on. Cross for the far post is aimed for Bobby Gould. Good duck. Cantello. And that's Ali Brown, number 2. It's all right. Ali Brown. 2-0 Albion as United hesitated. 21.5 minutes into the first half. An easy little attack built up. A good dummy then by Gould, allowing the ball to come to Cantello. His cross ball, and Ali Brown tucks his second goal of the game away. John Weil with the kick. Well won by Tony Brown. Buck and down for Best. But Dougal's gone forward. That's got to be a booking. That's Robertson. Harold Davey heading in the direction of Robertson, and he hasn't booked him. Well. That was preventing an attack building up more. And a penalty's been given. No, a free kick's been given. John Weil. Great relief on John Weil's face then. Frankly, I didn't see any offence in there at all. And a penalty. Indeed, it is given. It's got to be a handball. Well, there it is. A penalty. George Best to take it against young Peter Latchford. It's 2-1. George Best makes it 2-1, scoring his third penalty of the season. So we're just about 39 minutes into the first half, and 3 goals have been scored. West Bromwich Albion have got 2 of them. A very simple penalty then by George Best. The incident that provided it, presumably handball. At worst, I would have said it was accidental, and frankly, I didn't see it at the time. So, Cantello for Albion. Bobby Gould. That's Hartford. And he's given another penalty. That's a penalty. Donald brings down Hartford. Well, what an incredible situation. I would say that's inside a minute. A penalty at both ends of the park. And now the strain comes on Tony Brown. Tony Brown to take a penalty. It's 2-1 at the moment. It's Tony Brown versus Alex Stepney, with the score at 2-1 to Albion. And he's missed it. He hit the post and missed it. And Tony Brown has brought tears to the eyes of his colleagues around this park. They're holding their heads. Stepney didn't even have to make the save. Dougal for more. And Wyn Davis tanking away down that left side, taking Nisbet with him. McDougall's in the box. Moore joining in from behind. And again it comes backwards for Best. Almost as though United players not willing to accept the responsibility. Always looking for somebody else. Wyn Davis picking up Tony Dunn. Now Best. Moore shielding the ball well. Takes it too far. Woolgar wins it. And then Dunn wins it. Now they'll be looking for the offside. Wyn Davis. running well against Nisbet and forcing a corner off Nisbet. Chanting supporters who travel down from Old Trafford now, almost willing Manchester United to get an equaliser, best with the corner. And there it is! That's number 11, Ian Moore has got it! Ian Moore then has the equaliser from George Best. 31 minutes into the second half, and it's all tied up at 2-2, and there are some of the supporters that I was telling you about, pouring onto the pitch, joined by the police, as the police try to get them off. So from 2-0 down, Manchester United are now back in the game at 2-2. Straightforward corner from George Best. Ian Moore, the first man up to it. I think it was Hartford on the line, tried to handle it and keep it out, but referee Davies said the ball was in the net anyway.
And indeed, that's how it finished, a 2-2 draw. That's it for today. Hope you've enjoyed the show and see you again next weekend. We finished today, though, with the moment of breakthrough for a young player, when a critical crowd at last comes to accept him. It's John Pratt, of course, of Spurs, happily banging in his second goal against Stoke yesterday.
Chivers jumping forward, and Chivers winning it. Gilzine turning it back for Pratt. Oh, and John Pratt has scored